everyone. Welcome to a new session of Ashram Talks. I'm really happy to be here once again with all of you. Thanks so much for joining or for watching this later. And well, today we have a very interesting topic, which is work hard, play later, or work hard, pray now and later. We're going to continue diving into Bhagavad Gita chapter 3. And this time, Anuradha is joining us to guide us through this topic, which I think the title it chose is pretty interesting. But actually, I have no idea of what's coming next. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Welcome, Anuradha, and I think we can start diving into the topic. I'm sorry, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. Yes, it's quite the interesting title, I'll admit. But we can start off with the invocation prayers, just inviting auspiciousness into this discussion, and then we'll dive into the topic. Ajnanatimirandhasya ज्ञानञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाये तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि श्री गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So we're on now verse 16 in chapter 3. So we can actually read the translation if that's available for everyone to see. So Krishna is saying, my dear Arjuna, a man who does not follow the prescribed Vedic system of sacrifice certainly leads a life of sin, for a person delighting only in the senses lives in vain. So this is a pretty heavy statement. Krishna, he's not mincing any words, and he's speaking about wasting one's life. He's speaking about living a life of sin if one does not follow this prescribed Vedic system or this Vedic path. So generally, we see that most of modern society, they fall within the first category of the title, which is the work hard, play later. So what does this mean? That they work hard like a hog, dog, cat, a donkey, for lack of better qualifying word, even though they're in the human form of life, they're working like an animal, only to have a little bit of enjoyment at the end of the week or at the end of the day, just to then go back again and start the whole cycle of working so hard and then getting that little carrot at the end of the week. So it's like having a carrot dangling in front of you the entire time, and you're just kind of cycling through this wheel, working hard, working hard, working hard, and then, oh, now I have a break. Now I have vacation time. Now I have this. The amount of hours that you spent working does not amount to how much time uh, you may have in vacation time or what have you. So, this is most people. Most of modern society falls within this category of work hard now and then play later. Even everyone in the world uh, has a boss. We cannot escape. Even the people that are self-employed, the people that are their own bosses, even they have someone who's above them, right? You cannot evade taxes. There's many people who try that, but it does not work. The IRS does find your address some way, somehow, and they want their money. So no matter who you are in this world, we all are under the control of someone or something. So in reality, there's no, you know, uh, uh, real, how do you say, real freedom away from, this idea of working hard and then having the concept of then uh, enjoying one's work or enjoying one's, vacation time or what have you. So in this specific verse, and also in previous verses, we have uncovered that the origination of everything, including the Vedas, Vedic scriptures, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Krishna, is a Supreme Person. So uh, the various things that are prescribed within the Vedas, there's various activities for cultivating a spiritual life. There's various things within the Vedas. There's a lot of things for pious activity, for purificatory activity. They're also known spiritual activities, also known as yagyas, or in this case, sacrifice. Uh, so one may ask, okay, well, why? Why is it that I have to do this pious activity, this purificatory activity? Why do I have to do sacrifice? I'm in it for myself. I've worked hard. I've created my own vision. I've created my own life, my own dream. What is the need of offering something to someone else or doing any particular selfless activity? What is the need for this? Well, that's the whole point, is that it is not only for the purification of ourselves, but it's also for the purification and the welfare of the entire world, of the entire universe. So it's something much bigger than even ourselves. So, uh, a person may say, okay, well, are you saying that, I'm dirty and contaminated, and so therefore I have to be purified? Yes and no. Here, bear with me. So, no, from the perspective that if we accept that we're spirit souls, if we accept that we are jivatma, then that means that we're always pure. We're never contaminated. And all of the different qualities that come along with being a soul. But when we come in contact with material energy and thus gain these, astral or subtle body, this gross body, these coverings that we're covered with, and thus our very existence, it becomes entangled in the false conception that this is me, in the false conception that these are, my thoughts, these are my feelings, this is my pain, this is my anxiety, this is my suffering. I am physically going through all of these things, when in reality the soul is not actually suffering. The soul is not going through pain. The soul is not going through various crescendos and ebbs and flows of feelings throughout the day. Instead, that is actually the projection that is coming from the combination of the astral and gross bodies. So, which again we talked a little bit about in chapter 2. So, the idea behind these yagyas, um, which again they emanate from the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Person, from Krishna, who is again originator of everything, that these yagyas are offered, or they're put in in the direction of God or of Krishna. And the whole point of it really is to become self-realized, to remove ourselves from that false conception, or misconception rather, of being situated within these bodies, thinking, yes, I am this particular person, I am my feelings, I am my pain, I am my anxiety, anger, all of these different things. And in doing so, by now becoming self-aware in the truest form, as a conscious, uh, living being that we all are, and understanding that all living beings are also this very thing, that we're simply, mm, you know, uh, spirit souls, or living conscious beings experience living a human experience, and these particular beings are living a bug experience, living a tree experience, living an animal experience, all of these different things. But the one uniting feature is that everyone is a soul. And then from there, that self-awareness, that self-realization, now we can then understand the not just the interconnectedness, but then also the relation and relationship with that supreme person from which everything emanates. So that is really the purpose of these spiritual activities. That's the purpose of these yagyas, is to be able to take these yagyas, which are for the benefit of not only us, but for the entire universe, and which are given by God to be able to use in service to God. So, in essence, God has created the path, has created the direction. Krishna has created and given the direction in which we can actually try to provide beneficial service, not just to Him, but also to all humanity and to all living beings. So, uh, I'm actually going to skip. I'm going to skip this part. I was going to speak about this. We may cover it at some later point, because it in different commentaries you'll see how, and also this was also discussed in previous classes, is that, um, from the clouds comes the rain, and from the rain comes the grains, and from the grains comes humans and different things. So um, those things were already addressed, so I will not address them. um, but again, going back to this point about um, you know about spiritual activity, or yagya. So all humans have the right, sort of embedded within our birthright, so to speak. All humans have the right to perform spiritual activities, so to perform these yagyas. But those who instead sort of shun this responsibility, they essentially are disconnecting themselves from spiritual reality, and they're thinking themselves to be independent, meaning that they're only focused on I, my, and me, and my nuclear unit or family. So such persons, they verily create problems, not only for themselves, but probably also for society. So in this case, we find again in this verse it is known as sin. So it seems like, such very strong language. Again, you don't follow this prescribed duty, basically, you don't do as I tell you, and now you're creating sin. But again, let's understand the bigger and broader picture. The bigger and broader picture is about the interconnectedness between all things and the relationship with the Supreme Person. And in that interconnectedness, in relation to Krishna or to the Supreme Person, then there's also a duty, a responsibility that we hold for having this body, for having this, this life, for having this home, having the cars, having all. There's a certain responsibility that comes with that. If instead we think that now I am the Lord and surveyor of all that, or excuse me, purveyor of all that I survey, then we essentially come into a bit of a problem, because that's actually not true. We're not the Lord and the purveyor of all that we survey. That would be verily false. So if we decide, and we decide to take appropriate action, and that means have the responsibility of understanding that deep interconnectedness. And again, this is where bhaktas come in, this is where spiritualists come in. This is where that second part of the title comes in, where these individuals who understand that deep interconnectedness, connectedness of all living beings as they relate to the Supreme Person, and they, again, they fall within that second category of work hard, pray now and later. So these individuals, they daily and consistently perform spiritual activity. They perform yajna for purification, for piety. Um, and it is for the purpose of not becoming entangled by the results of selfish activity. That same selfish activity that was in the first category of the, of the work hard and play later, basically, again, focused on the I, me, and my, but instead is focused on something outside of myself. It's focused on selfless activity. It's focused on a general awareness that I am not the creator of the rain. I'm not the creator of the grains. So I therefore must give back. And this is uh, the process, essentially, of, some of these yagyas or sacrifices that are described and have been described in this chapter 3. So what we want to, in essence, try to strive to do in our daily lives is to become more self-aware, to become more, mm, day in and day out, more realized, or at least realize the spiritual reality, the spiritual background and interconnectedness behind everything that is emanating from that Supreme Person, that is emanating from Krishna. And in doing so, then we can have a more appropriate understanding in how we see and perceive the world, that it's not simply just based on my existence, that everything that I see before me is not meant for my enjoyment, but instead, I can in turn offer much of what I have to that Supreme Person in a very loving, devotional, and devotionally attached mood. So that's in essence what bhakti is. You know, yajnas can be performed of different types. There's karma yoga, gyan yoga, and then more specifically Bhakti Yoga, which again, most of us on this podcast are, if not all of us. So the reason that makes, bhakti as not simply the yoga of love or the yoga of the heart, the yoga of devotional service, but bhakti is as an action, bhakti as a yajna, that daily we are offering what we have to Krishna, to everything related to Krishna. And that means understanding that everything is related to Krishna. Everything is related to that Supreme Person. So, by understanding that everything is related to the Supreme Person, then it means that inherently we do not take unnecessary advantage of what we see. We don't develop the mood and mindset of mm, a gross enjoyment of these things, because we understand that they're not meant necessarily for me. I can utilize them. I can utilize them for my say food, for example. I can utilize food for my sustenance. I can utilize food for mm, my nourishment and nutrition and all of these things, but it doesn't mean that I gorge myself on food, and then when we actually have that imbalance in our system, then many, we see even Ayurvedically and other things, then many imbalances happen. We see obesity happens, and childhood obesity is also very much growing, and this is because we're seeing food and we're thinking, this is mine. And we're just gorging and very greedily just taking and taking and taking, but not thinking, no, who has provided this food? Who has actually given this product? Where's the source of it? We can be a little bit more small minded and think, oh, it came from the supermarket, and then maybe a little bit more broad minded, oh, it was grown by a farmer, or it was grown, but from where actually the source of this food, where actually has it come from? Everything has ultimately has its origin, spiritually speaking. Materially we can say, okay, it's here, 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 but spiritually speaking, everything has its origin, and the origin begins naturally with the Supreme Person. There's no escaping that. So instead of then having the eyes bigger than the stomach, in that instead of having that maybe perception, we develop the mindset of, I'm only going to take as much as needed that will sustain me, as much as needed that will provide me energy to continue in my service to the Supreme Person, to Krishna. Now, one of the yajnas that is performed daily, because the yajna also uh, is performed with sound. It's performed with sound vibration. So one of the main yajnas that is performed to Krishna, and for the benefit of the entire, for the welfare of the entire world, the entire universe, what to speak of ourselves, is the Nam Sankirtan Yajna. So this particular Nam Yajna, meaning the glorification of the holy names of the divine or of Krishna, this is the yajna that is specifically performed within this age of darkness, this age of quarreling and hypocrisy. So, there's many mantras out there. Man means mind, tra means to free. There's many mantras out there, but this specific mantra is known as the Maha Mantra because it contains all the other mantras. Maha means great. So this is the great mantra, as some describe it, great mantra of deliverance. Some describe it as the peace formula. that this particular mantra contains all other mantras, and therefore it is the most powerful, most impactful. And excuse me, the daily repetition of this very powerful mantra is what is done by uh, sincere practitioners along the path of bhakti. This is the yagya that they perform, or that we perform daily. And this particular yagya is something that you don't need a, a fire sacrifice. You don't need animal slaughter. There's no, in the past, in the Vedas, there's certain need for uh, you know uh, the the sacrifice of animals and things. That is not required. You don't need electricity. You don't need any big gadgets and gadgets. You don't need any big thing. The beauty of this Nam Yagya or Nam Sankirtan Yagas can be performed any day, anytime, morning, noon, night, and laying down, standing up, in the shower, in the bathroom, anytime, any place. There's no real rules, regulations for this particular yagya, this particular spiritual activity. So as we go deeper into these chapters, we'll uncover the the practice of bhakti yoga, and really we see glimpses of this here and there within these chapters, and within these particular verses. We see glimpses of bhakti being given, but our main aim and focus is to make bhakti our life air. So we don't want to enter into the first category of working hard, playing later, making it about I, me, and mine, but instead that we want to be able to work hard for Krishna. We want to pray now and also pray later, and especially through this chanting of the Mahamantra. This can be our soul life force that allows us to pray at all times, and allows us to be able to remain connected to the Supreme Person, and thus be able to see the entire world as connected to that Supreme Person. So uh, I think I will end there. If there's any maybe questions, comments, anything.
Thank you, Anuradha, for explaining this topic in such a clear and deep way. I have a question.
Mm.
Maybe, I don't know if you could tell us from your own experience, how have you incorporated this concept of yajna in your daily life? Because I understand it's not something that, as you said, you don't need to perform a fire sacrifice or a big ritual.
Hmm.
But is there any example you could give us, or from your own experience, how could you, how would you recommend people to help them incorporate this offering attitude into their daily activities more and more?
Hmm. No, that's an amazing question. Um, the this offering mood, it it really develops from a place of humility, a place of understanding that I'm not independent of spiritual reality. I'm not independent of mm, this world, from the perspective that um, I'm not the creator of the world. I'm a dweller in the world, and I'm not the creator of anything that is already manifested in this world. We can exclude the man-made things, but um, from that perspective, with that humility, with that mm, kind of overarching mood of a sense of mm, dependence and gratitude on something much higher than ourselves, a deep sense of higher authority, then, we can have this mood really of, uh, you know, this mood of offering, this mood of yagya. And quite naturally, I mean, it can happen with anything. It can, I mean, I mentioned about, the chanting of the names. This is one method. It can happen with, food, in terms of how we, like, some people, when they eat, they go to wawa, they go to any restaurant, and they don't say grace. They're like just, shoveling the food in their mouth. But if we take the time and say grace, or to say some prayers before we have that food, and thus we're remembering, oh, where does this food come from? That I even if I prepared it, but still, I got it from a restaurant, got it from a convenience store, whatever the case was, someone was involved in the preparation, but it didn't mean that they created the food. So that again, that humility comes, that gratitude comes. So, and it really, again, for house, for car, for anything that we have, the sense of gratitude that even if I may have done the activity to achieve that thing, it doesn't mean that I'm entitled to it. It doesn't mean that it's permanently mine, because just as soon as I get it, just as soon as it can leave. So we have to, not have to, but, um, if we can really just try to remain in that space of humility and gratitude, and that sense of connectedness with the source of ourselves, as in the supreme person, then we can sort of see our in so many words, our smallness, um, and, we can see how we play a role within the world. But again, the world is not designed to be our playground, um, and so we can try to develop that mood of offering, to the person who actually created everything here. So
Okay, so that means that trying to bring about that, that attitude, that humble attitude, and grateful attitude, that would be enough for a start, right? Like that's the
yeah,
base of everything.
yeah, they say, what is it? Appreciation, that an attitude of gratitude, the power of appreciation, it goes a long way. Even in our own personal relationships, the how we relate to someone, if the person, does not feel seen and heard, it means generally that they're not feeling as though someone maybe feels, some level of appreciation for them, that they're offering something, and therefore they're being appreciated for that offering, or for giving that particular thing. So, you know the attitude of gratitude, or the power of appreciation, the energy of appreciation, however you want to phrase it, it's very, very powerful. And that can be a huge bonding, um, and connection, even between, relationships that we have. So what to speak of our relationship with the supreme person? If we don't have that mood of gratitude, if we don't have that energy, or that power of appreciation, then we essentially we we fall short. We fall into that category of being very ungrateful. Oh yeah, I did this, who was he? you know and it's like, hold on now. So, it's yeah, it's we should definitely, from our parents to our teachers. Every one of us has a teacher. Every one of us has someone who has encouraged us along the way to be where we are today. So if we don't have gratitude for those people, we don't have appreciation for those individuals, then who are we? And what are we doing? So yeah, I think ultimately it definitely starts with being in that humble mood and showing that sense of gratitude for, everything that is provided for us.
Yeah, and maybe it sounds simple, but in my personal experience, it's something that I can easily forget about. So
Mm.
yeah, maybe
Oh,
simple, but
100%, all of us. All of us. I know I forget sometimes too. So, but it's a daily reminder for sure.
yeah, definitely. Well, we have a really interesting question here from Paps 8. He says, can we have some recreation while practicing a particular yoga, especially when we are not fully detached yet?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Excuse me. You know, naturally, the very nature of the soul is to desire. So it's one of those things that desire doesn't just go away. We cannot artificially, you know, um, try to detach ourselves from everything and everyone, go to be a recluse in the forest, or go artificially to some cave and then start to meditate. So naturally there is going to be some level of, in the words here it says recreation, but it could be enjoyment. um, within the path of bhakti, it is said that in this path of bhakti it's joyfully performed. So quite naturally there is some joy, there is some mm, uh, uh, enjoyment that is derived from the very nature of bhakti itself. um, but if we're speaking about recreation from the from the perspective of like a side thing, like maybe we enjoy going to the beach on Saturday, Sunday, or we enjoy going to the park, we enjoy going here, going there with our friends, family, going to the movies, whatever. Again, if you were not if we're not fully detached, we shouldn't be artificial about it. We should continue doing our lives, and again continue practicing the path, having full confidence and faith in it. um, but at the same time understanding that you know these things are temporary. These temporary little excursions that I'm going on, this little recreation that I'm going on, some temporary happiness will be there. It will not give me eternal happiness. So we may not have that as like the backdrop while we're in the activity, but hopefully within having faith and confidence within the practice of that particular yoga, as in I'm referring to maybe bhakti in this case, um, excuse me, that uh, we have that in the back of our minds, and thus we can understand that real happiness is and we'll uncover this in the Gita. Real happiness is derived really from that which is connected with the Supreme Person, who is fully in bliss, fully, is completely, in Anand. So anything related to Krishna then allows us to also experience that as well. So hopefully that helps to answer that question.
Yeah, this question reminds me of a time I asked something similar to, well, it's not my spiritual master, but he was connected to him, so he was like a spiritual master as well.
Hmm.
And like I was really concerned because I was still beginning my yoga practice. So I was concerned about doing things like watching movies or eating ice cream with my family because like it's like you're here, but you want to be there where
Hmm.
they tell you that okay, this is the ideal. This is like ultimately you should be doing everything for the pleasure of God.
Hmm.
So, but coming to that point is a long path, maybe a long path depending on the person. So I
Hmm.
asked him like, how about what if I go out and eat ice cream with my family? So he said, okay, you're not a cloister nun. you have to share with your family. Like, that's totally okay if that's where
Mm.
you are right now. So
Yes.
yes, I agree with what you said. Like, we have to try to be natural about who we are, like not push ourselves, yeah, to, or pretend to be someone we're not, or
Mm.
that we're in a level we're not, like
Mm.
trying to enjoy things we're still not able to enjoy. As
Mm.
Sixastakam says, like, okay, if you chant the names of the Lord, you progressively acquire the taste for those
Mm.
things you're actually hankering for, but you just haven't realized yet what actually makes your soul happy.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Anuradha. Then, well, I don't know if you'd like to close with any other comment or something you'd like to say to wrap this up.
Yeah, just know, as we go deeper into the Gita, then we will, come to find exactly as you're saying what makes our soul happy. And so, it can start out in just doing, spiritual activity with a spiritual mindedness, and that can be rooted in that gratitude, or in that sort of selflessness. And when it's directed then to the supreme person, quite naturally it affects every living being. It affects every living entity, because it's like when you water the root of a tree, then the whole tree becomes nourished. But if you water the branches or water the leaves, so essentially, if we're just only serving certain aspects of society, certain things, our nuclear family, this, that, and the third, then it's not watering the root of the tree. So then the tree cannot become nourished. So, like this, then we want to try to water the root of the tree, and that begins with, performing some spiritual activities or yagyas in the service of the divine person or Krishna.
Well, thank you so much, Anuradha. It's been great hearing from you and sharing this time with you. Also,
Thank you.
very nurturing. Everything you said has been really helpful. And well, thank you so much. I hope to see you in the next Ashram Talk sessions.
Yes, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, and to everyone who joined today, thank you so much. Thanks to Sodaskuro for his comment. Always remember Krishna, never forget him. Greetings from Colombia. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Paps Aid, for your question. Also, thank you, Colleen, for joining as well and leaving your support here in the comment section. It's always a great pleasure to have you all with us. And we've got a final question here by Sienna. Well, we didn't actually have time to go over it. But it's how is Saint understood and defined into the Vedic Vaishnava tradition versus the Western Judeo-Christian view. So we could maybe dive into this question maybe in a live session later. So if you'd like to know more about this topic and have a live session maybe on Instagram or on YouTube, you can leave it in the comments. And if you're interested, we're definitely going to try to discuss this topic if you find it interesting. So we'll meet in our next session, which is going to be this Thursday at 8 a.m. And please remember to follow us on Instagram. You can find there our class schedule. And remember that our live sessions are every Monday and Thursday. Mondays at 7:30 p.m. and Thursdays at 8 a.m. EST. Thanks so much for joining us and see you on our next class. Bye bye.